All right, I'm here tonight with Tader Masters from MasterSbilt and Hudson Oneal, house car driver for MasterSbilt, and we're gonna throw it back a little bit here and watch the 1995 Hoosier Dirt Classic from Brownstown Speedway. Big win for Hudson's dad, Don Oneal, in this race. We may pause this, we may talk a little bit. We're gonna look at it and just kind of see, Hudson, what you see here during the race.
Me and Tater got a prediction. Dad ran somebody over.
That's a pretty safe one.
Is that your new name?
That is the new. Well, the podcast is still the same, but that is the new name for our entertainment company. Let me see. Why?
Look at that yellow and red.
Why are we not getting any sound here?
That's Flanagan. On the inside, ain't it, of the 4 wide?
Hey, here's John Gill.
Yeah, John Gill's in there.
Yep.
Let me see here. Let's get.
You know what's bad? I don't know how these guys.
Salute to Lee
There we
Fleetwood.
go.
You gotta talk to them.
Lee Fleetwood, longtime competitor, glad to have his family with us here tonight. So again, Mark Miner on the pole, his second time here at Brownstown. He's out of Stockbridge, Georgia. Doug
Mark
McCammon,
Miner,
who won the
MasterSbilt.
Illinois Dirt Classic last night at Kankakee Speedway. He's out of Palestine, Illinois in 92. Row 2 will be the 11. Dick Phillips, he's out of Columbus, Indiana, alongside the 71 out of Martinsville, Indiana, Don Oneal. Row 3, it'll be Rick Auckland in the 12 out of Zanesville, Ohio, and Billy Moyer, your fast qualifier tonight in 21 out of Batesville, Arkansas. Then in the rat car tonight, that'll be Bob Pierce out of Danville, Illinois, and alongside of him will be the 27 out of Oak Lawn, Illinois, Bob Pullman Jr. Again, 57 laps in length, $7,500 to the winner. Here tonight at Brownstown Speedway, the 12th annual Hoosier Dirt Classic, an event that began here in 1984. Here we go, green is out. Good start by Mark Miner. Again, his second time he's raced here at Brownstown Speedway in his career. The Stockbridge, Georgia driver leading down the back straightaway. As the field makes his way into turn number 3, Lanigan there in 29. James Huff in 5 out of turn 1. Mark Miner, your leader.
Well, Tater, you started off.
Payday on the line here tonight for the 1995 Hoosier Dirt Classic. Cars work down the back straightaway. There's Scott Graham, the red 15. As they come out of turn 4, Miner still in front, side by side battle for second. Oneal in 71. There's the 3 of Gary Barrow in the Butch Ruddick 3 as they come out of 2. So Miner continues to lead, battle for second. As you see Jim Curry making his way up through there in the 7 car. Miner still leads. Oneal now has gone to second. McCammon is third in 92. Heading down the back straight, we'll get battle there, Moyer. He started on the outside of row number 2. Excuse me, row number 3. He's already up to 4th as he battles for 3rd with McCammon. Miner still leads. Oneal second, and we got him melee in 4. We got him stacked up down there. And
Just to
Darrell
clarify, your
Lanigan,
dad was not involved
the
in that
Union
in any
Kentucky
way.
driver, will bring out the first caution of the race.
They drove so much easier then.
So Lanigan, the Arizona Sports Trucks 29.
You drive
We'll have to
20
go to the
times
back.
harder, but it's faster to drive harder today. Then it wasn't.
3 laps in the books. So Mark Miner, your leader in car number 7.
You know, it's interesting you say that, honey, because I talked to, interviewed Bobby Pierce on
Miner
Sunday
started
night,
on the
and we were
pole.
talking about some of these old
Georgia
races.
drivers
and he
led the first
said,
3 laps.
you know, if you
Here
had,
tonight at the
if
Hoosier Dirt Classic,
the cars
as you see
drove as
Lanigan, a
well
little bit of
today
work
as
down
what
there.
they did
Eric
back
Wohl.
then, he goes, it would be
Look at
ridiculous
the 29 taking
what
a
we
little.
were able to, what we would be able to do.
Lanigan's
You know,
okay,
obviously,
but
the
he did stop on
technology
the
is so
track.
much
He does
better
have
what
to
you
go to
guys
the
have,
back.
but he said the cars just seem to drive easy.
So again, Mark Miner, your leader in car 7 here of this 57-lap Hoosier Dirt Classic, a tribute to Lee Fleetwood.
You try and break 1 in half every time you get in it today.
Yeah.
Here earlier tonight, the E-race winners were Jim Curry, James Huff, Don Oneal, and Darrell
That's the
Lanigan.
reason why guys like
John Gill and Steve Barnett won the contest that I mentioned earlier. Billy Moyer was the fastest qualifier here tonight.
today is not.
Get them in single file order and turn them
Well, you
loose.
set them up so well that you can just hammer it into
Nice
the
payday
corner
on the line,
and drive off.
$7,500. There's Minor. Don
Well, you
O'Neill
hope-
second. Third
you
is
hope
Doug
you have it
McCammon.
set up that well,
Fourth is
right?
Billy Moyer.
Right,
Fifth
yeah.
runs Rick
Yeah.
Lachlan. Then it's Dick
More
Phillips.
times than not.
Gary Barrow,
More times
John
than not,
Gill,
You're usually not on the
The
right
rat
end of
one
that.
of Bob Pierce. There's the 7 of Jim Curry. So get ready to turn them loose again with the green flag. In 3 laps in the record books here tonight, 54 to
I can't
go
believe Vern Fleetwood ain't in this race.
in this race. Mark Minor,
Or was
impressive
it
so far. Again,
Lee?
only the second
Okay,
time
he
he's
just
ever
passed
raced
away.
here at Brownstown Speedway.
Vernon was
Longtime veteran out of
Vern was a drug.
Stockbridge,
Vern's still
Georgia.
alive, ain't he? Yes.
Yeah. Lee had just, they actually,
So
that's
you have
why.
the first
Vern
three.
raced
So
a
you
little
have
bit.
Georgia, Indiana,
I can't answer that
Illinois,
one.
Arkansas, and Ohio, the top
I got
5.
mixed up. Yeah, it was Lee.
But this race was
I'll
actually
talk about ready to
57 laps in
Unfurl
honor
the
of Lee
green flag to
Fleetwood.
get back to racing. Lanigan back on the back after bringing out the caution. So Minor will lead Don O'Neill at turn number 4 down the main straightaway, back underway. Hoosier Classic here at Brownstown Speedway. Out at turn number 2 down the back straightaway. Billy Moyer working the outside as Minor still leads it at turn number 3. 4 laps in the books now. Mark Minor crossing.
I also
the
think it's
finish line,
amazing
big
to see
battle
how much
behind
the
him between
track
Don
has changed
O'Neill.
at Brownstown.
I was
There's
just
the
getting
rat
ready to
one
say
of Bob
that.
Pierce.
This
On the
is
bottom
when
is
you can still
Franklin,
drive all the
Indiana,
way to
Scott
the wall.
Graham in
Yeah,
car
how
15.
wide
There's
that
Dick
front
Phillips
stretch is,
in the
the
11,
different lanes
Gary
you can
Barrow
use
in
there.
3 as they work out a 4. Minor still leads. Now pressure from Moyer now. Moyer to the outside of Don O'Neill. So the 2 yellow and red cars going at it. There's CJ Rayburn in the 1 CJ. But right now, Mark Minor still leads.
CJ's was one of those guys who was either
Billy Moyer working the outside
awesome
of
or
Don
terrible.
O'Neill.
There was never an in between.
There's Doug McCammon in 92, Dickie
Some of
Phillips in
them
the 11,
days,
Gary
he would
Barlow
go to
again
the
in Brooks Road
racetrack
X3. There's the battle for lead
and
right
outrun
now.
everybody.
And we've got a new
And
leader,
other
Billy
days he'd
Moyer
show
down the
up
back
and you think
straightaway.
he'd never
Moyer has come from 6th here early on.
Some
And on
days
the
you wondered
sixth
if he
lap,
never drove
Moyer
before
takes the
when he pulled the
lead.
hauler in.
Yeah.
Mark Minor running in 2nd now. Don O'Neill in 3rd. Then it's Rick Lachlan and Doug McCammon in the top 5. Dickie Phillips runs in 6th and 11. So the first 6 laps, 2 different leaders. Mark Minor led the first 5 laps. Moyer now out in front in 21. Billy Moyer came here in the mid-'80s about 10 years ago, and he's been impressive every time he's been to this Brownstown Speedway facility. Right now, Don O'Neill, Mark Minor, the battle for 2nd. There's Dick Phillips and Scott Graham. As you see, the battle there is now O'Neill on the inside, and Don O'Neill has gotten around Mark Minor. So Don O'Neill, who came here about 4 years ago as a full-time driver at Brownstown, along with his brother Marty, right now looking for the biggest win of his racing career. Billy Moyer still out in front. Don O'Neill 2nd. Mark Minor runs in the 3rd spot. And you have Lachlan McCammon battles back here, continuing. Drivers trying to make their way to the front.
It's amazing to me how straight they keep the cars back then.
James Huff, Steve Barnett in 89 back
That's what I
there.
was saying. You know,
John
they-
Gill in 75. There's
Slower
Rayburn in the
was
1
faster.
CJ working
Yes.
the bottom
And
down
it
the back
is
straightaway.
today. In
Behind
positions,
Huff.
slower is faster in positions. But,
Meanwhile, Moyer stretching the
but
lead
it's a
out in car
different
number
slope.
21.
Like, it's not the same.
There's the battle there between Rayburn,
I bet if
and
if, we
Curry.
had if they had the technology then that we do
Curry and
now,
Huff, both
had
won
the
heat
data
races
and
here early
everything,
on the night, but
they
right
are
now
off
they're in the
gas
mid-pack,
30
trying to battle their way to the
40%.
front as Billy Moyer still leads
Today
in
we're
this
off the gas
12th annual
15.
Hoosier Classic at Brownstown Speedway.
Really.
Good racing all over the place, but right now Billy Moyer out in front by himself in car 21. Don O'Neill remains in 2nd and 71. There's Kevin Weaver in the B12. Weaver trying to work his way to the front here as 1 caution so far here in the first 10 laps of this race.
And even back when Tader and them drove, and Tader can vouch for it, we experienced it.
James Huff in the 5, CJ Rayburn in the 1 CJ.
down there.
CJ
And
Rayburn,
7
the
or 8
current
years
points
ago,
leader here at
9 years ago,
Brownstown.
that 402 would have hung just because of how different everything
You
was.
see the battle there
And
between
we
Doug
went down
McCammon and
there
now Scott Graham in
we ended up
15, and the
taking it.
caution is out for the second time in this race.
It's not because the motors have gotten bigger or anything like that. It's just
So officially
how different
14
everything
laps
drives.
in the books. Did not get that last completed lap in. 14 in the books. Billy Moyer will be your race leader. In 21, Don O'Neal second in the 71. Third, it'll be Rick Auckland in 12. Mark Miner in the 7. Doug McCammon, Scott Graham, Dick Phillips, C.J. Rayburn, John Gill, Gary Barrow.
So, Tater, how many cars do you think
In
are
the running
MasterSbilt
order
right
right
there in
now.
that field?
Barnett at 89, he's in there as well. So we got a car off the track coming off at turn 4.
Oh, Tater.
So again, 14 laps in the books of this 57-lap Hoosier Classic, a tribute to Lee Fleetwood. Mark
Don
Miner
just-
led the first
So you
3
think he might
laps
have
of
got
this
into
race.
somebody? He'd probably tell us
Actually
somebody
led the
got
first
into
5
him.
laps, I should
we
say.
were
Then
racing a
Moyer
high
took
race
the lead
the
on lap
other
6.
day,
He's led ever
and
since.
me and Warson
So a
were
big
racing,
lead for
I
Billy
asked
Moyer's
Warson,
going
I
away
said,
down, and he'll be
I
behind
said,
him on a
"How's my
single
right
file
side
restart."
look?" He
Rick
says, "Like
Auckland
you're an Oneal."
in third now in 12. There's Miner in 7. McCammon will challenge him in 92. We got a spin in 3. And it's C.J. Rayburn bringing out a caution the third of the race. So
There's
Rayburn
what you
will
were
have to go
talking
to the
about,
back.
Eddie.
Stack them up again here. Single file again. 14 in the books here tonight.
Has the wheelbase changed any, Tater?
Back out. There's a battle there between Miner and Doug McCammon. Again, Doug McCammon won last night at Kankakee Speedway in Kankakee, Illinois, the Illinois Dirt Classic.
The quarter panels were a lot shorter.
As the Illini driver came on with a win. He started on the outside of the front row here tonight. There's the battle into turn 3. That's James Huff in 5. Kevin Weaver in the B12. Dick Phillips still in there. There's Pullman in 27. Pullman Jr. always runs good here at Brownstown. Meanwhile, Scott Graham in the 15 car.
So what do you mean?
Good run for the Franklin, Indiana veteran on the inside of Mark Miner as he's right behind McCammon. There's Auckland in third. So it's Moyer, Don O'Neal, Rick Auckland, Doug McCammon, Scott Graham, Mark Miner, Dickie Phillips.
Yeah, I don't think that they're really. These cars are not shorter. They're just so lower. I think the decks just get higher and higher and higher.
in the B12.
And on the field with no 4 links, whatever, they don't have that attitude.
Barnett at 89.
These are 500-pound
Trying to
spring,
work
550
their way
right
up into the top 10
right
here
front spring
tonight at
car.
Brownstown. There's Phillips at 11. Curry on the bottom in 7. Jim Curry in 7. A battle there between McCammon and Scott Graham. Scott Graham on the bottom. Good move by Scott Graham, and Scott Graham will move into position number 4 in 15. So Scott Graham having a good run tonight here in the Hoosier Classic at Brownstown Speedway, but they're behind about a half a straightaway behind Rick Auckland in 12. Who's third? Don O'Neal second. Billy Moyer continues to lead. Again, Moyer started in 6th. In car 21, Don O'Neal. As they head into turn number 1, as you see the battle back here, there's McCammon now working the bottom. Curry in 7. Jim Curry won a heat race earlier here tonight. Now McCammon and Mark Miner go at it side by side down the back straightaway. Illinois and Georgia into turn 3. Miner's been in the top 5 basically the entire race. Now in jeopardy of going outside the top 5 in 7. Meanwhile, O'Neal, he's in the Marvin O'Neal MasterSbilt O'Neal Wood Product 71.
Right there it
out
was.
At turn 4.
Yeah,
and
but
now
didn't you say
Moyer has competition for leaders. Auckland
I mean,
in
you
12
might
and
be
3rd.
right.
No, that's what I mean.
So
He,
Don
that was the
O'Neal's
part.
picked it up, and Billy Moyer after
The Marvin
caution
O'Neal
as they head down
MasterSbilt,
the back straightaway.
but we do not believe it
Billy
was.
Moyer, the veteran out of
That's a
Batesville,
great-
Arkansas. Don O'Neal,
sure.
30 years old, out of Martinsville, Indiana. Again, he and his brother Marty came here in the early
30
90s. Now,
years
he
old.
ran here some in the late 80s.
I wasn't
He's
even
been
thought
here
of.
weekly basically since 1991.
Kids probably
as
weren't even
Don
thought of.
O'Neal
Well,
for the biggest win of his racing career.
what year was this? 95?
Down the
95.
back,
My brother
there's
was
the
born
battle
in
between
95.
John Gillen, 75, James Huff in 5. There's Rayburn in 1, CJ.
Yeah, my
Rayburn had
brother
to
was
go to the
born in
tail,
95.
brought out the 3rd caution of the race here. Trying to work his way back into the front. The current points leader here at Brownstown Speedway. There's the Rat 1, Bob Pierce driving the car tonight.
MasterSbilt.
There's Dickie Phillips, Steve Barnett at 89. Long-time competitors here at Brownstown Speedway. They head down the back straightaway. Phillips and Barnett.
Jack Hodge.
There's Scott Graham in 15. Meanwhile, Moyer still leads over Don Oneal and Rick Auckland. Then it's Scott Graham in 4th. 5th runs Doug McCammon. 6th is Mark Miner in that red number 7. Working the outside of McCammon now in car 92. But those cars are several car lengths behind the battle for the top 3 right there. You see it right now. Moyer heading into turn 3 with Oneal. Then it's Auckland several car lengths back in the 3rd spot. Don Oneal not letting Billy Moyer get away in 21. Heading into this race this year, Moyer, he won the opening night race here of 1995 back in March. John Gill, C.J. Rayburn, Doug McCammon, Mike Jewell, Jim Curry have all won at least once.
It still amazes me, like right there, just how wide the front stretch was. You could go 3 wide coming into 1 right there and be fine.
6 different winners so far here in 1995
like that.
As we enter this Hoosier Classic at Tribute to Lee Fleetwood.
Yeah.
Wide battle almost back here for position.
You could actually go plumb to the concrete
continues
and come
to
back
show the
on
way.
getting into 3.
Yeah, you could like diamond the racetrack.
There was
Brownstown Speedway
I'll never
regulars.
forget. They still have it hanging up in their shop. Jared Landers.
Right now, Billy Moyer still
going down the
way
front stretch and coming
in
into
this
3.
Hoosier Classic.
And he waited a little bit. He went all the way to the wall. And they had a picture of him sideways against the concrete on the front stretch.
Racing going on
and then
back
they
here.
had him coming back onto the racetrack, but he got on a little late and his whole front tires were
and Weaver around him. So 2 Illinois drivers
look
going out.
how
The
far
B12 of Kevin
Oh,
on
yeah.
the track.
and the Rat 1 of Bob Pierce.
That was
Meanwhile,
a good
here's the battle for the
configuration
lead between Billy Moyer and Don Oneal down the back straightaway.
Some of the best
closing
racing.
the gap in 71. Don Oneal is yet to win here at Brownstown this year. As I mentioned, Moyer won the opening night back here in March. In that
You know what a lot of people talk about how
21.
Brownstown
Oneal and a MasterSbilt. As those 2
Has it,
drivers now coming out of turn 4, there's the battle
how
in the
bad it
back right
races
now.
today
These
versus
drivers
then.
in jeopardy of going a lap down here
And
soon.
I think that
'cause
then
we've had
was
a
way
long
better,
green
but
flag
I
stretch
still
of
think that
racing.
Brownstown gets better
Moyer
every
and
year.
Oneal closing on the
I
back
think
of the
that
field here tonight at
the
Brownstown.
racetrack gets better every single year.
Right now,
Because whenever
James
they
Huff,
first
the
added all
last
that
car in the
banking,
lead lap
it was
in car
terrible.
5.
It was
Rayburn and
terrible.
Gary
It was one
Barlow in
lane
front
around
of him
the
in the
top.
black 3. There
And,
goes Moyer.
I mean, look at how
there
good the
goes
Jackson
Oneal into
races
turn
are.
1.
Oh,
out of
yeah.
2. Moyer running about a
I will
half
agree
a
with
groove
that.
higher than Oneal
In a
now as
pin.
they go to 3. Moyer tries to bring it back down. Oneal, he's glued to the bottom out of turn 4 as the battle back here continues. Pretty soon these drivers will be battling to stay on the lead lap. As Billy Moyer took the lead on lap 6 from Mark Miner after a caution. He has led ever since, but Don Oneal staying right with him. There's Weaver running off that track on the front
You see
straightaway.
how
That's
close
just-
he was? He was close to the concrete.
Battle back here. James
That's
Huff
just
still the last
amazing
car in the
to
lead
me.
lap.
Seeing it what it is now.
That one year that Weaver had that Warrior car,
As they
man,
come
that
into
guy
turn
won
4.
a pile
It's
of
still
races.
out of 4
Probably
now.
20
Moyer still leading.
plus races.
Really?
In the
He
1.
would be excellent.
Does
I'm
this
telling
long
you.
green
About
flag
this era
stretch,
right
does
here.
it benefit
94,
Oneal
95,
because
something like
Moyer's
that.
going to start to move into some traffic here soon. Moyer leaving Oneal plenty of room there as Don Oneal, you see him on the bottom, the 2 yellow and red cars out of turn 4. Moyer into 1. Oneal now on the bottom. Don Oneal making up time now on Moyer in traffic down the back straightaway. In this Hoosier Classic, a $7,500 payday on the line to the winner. Moyer to the outside of Huff. Oneal back on the bottom now. Billy Moyer working his way around traffic. Rick Auckland's gaining in the 12 car down the back straightaway.
Your dad was dedicated to that bottom, man. He wasn't even worried about lap cars. He was going to hang on it.
5. As they come out of 4, Gary Barlow in front of them in the Butch Reddick 3. Now Moyer have to work with Huff again. Huff trying to stay on the lead lap. Down to turn number 2 down the back straightaway. Moyer and Oneal, good show here in the Hoosier Classic. Billy Moyer up top now.
Well,
he's got two cars in front of him running side by side. James Huff and Gary Morrow. He can't get around him. Huff has unlapped himself. Now Oneal on the bottom. Don Oneal on the bottom at 71 for the lead down the back straightaway. They're side by side. Billy Moyer and Don Oneal into turn 3.
And then it was 11.
Here they come out of turn 4. Will we have a new leader down the main straightaway at the line? Don Oneal by a nose. Don Oneal has taken the lead at 71. He is battled.
Well, it's a good thing the Ute tires weren't out there at this point because he's using every bit of that bottom of the racetrack and more.
14 laps to go. Now 13 to go. Leads the Hoosier Dirt Classic. Rick Laughlin closing at 12. So Billy Moyer, he had no idea that Don Oneal was there. And Don Oneal squeezed by him. And Don Oneal out in front. And that Oneal Wood Products MasterSbilt 71 for the Martinsville, Indiana driver to turn number 4. Still behind Huff.
He
Huff
decided he was
remains
going
on
to
the
go
lead
full-time
lap.
dirt racing. And when he told my grandpa, and he
Billy
said
Moyer now. Can he create some Moyer magic here at Brownstown? We've seen it before. But right now, the young gun, Don Oneal, looking for the biggest win of his late model career here so far.
At the time, they might have had 1 or 2 other employees besides like Dad and Martin.
As we're in 1995, down the back straightaway, Laughlin still third. McCammon back in the 4th.
Well, that's gonna be a tough decision there when you've got a family business that they're counting
up front
on.
on Don Oneal. And his father, Marvin O'Neill's MasterSbilt race car 71. Down the back straightaway. He's hoping it stays green now because he's battling through and he's pulled away from Billy Moyer. Now Moyer's going to have to contend with Rick Laughlin for the runner-up spot and Don Oneal. That car has worked beautifully on the bottom all night long, and Moyer's going to give it a run on the outside. As the laps wind down, Don Oneal looking for not only the biggest win of his career, but his first win of the year here at Brownstown Speedway as they come out of turn 4. Moyer now on the bottom. Moyer's made up time as they've gotten around Huff. And now Moyer is right there as we wind it down. In this 12th annual Hoosier Dirt Classic, salute to Leafly with Billy Moyer not giving up.
But
here they come out of turn 4 on the outside. Don Oneal still leads.
How they were still how they paid
as the laps wind down. Laughlin a distant 3rd and 12. It's between those two.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, great point.
Average 80.
He'll try to get around Huff. Oneal into turn 3. Billy Moyer up top. Don Oneal out at turn number 4, down the main straightaway, into turn 1. Now Moyer in the middle line.
Dad said then
as
to win
they
a
come
track
out of 2
championship
down the back
was like winning
straightaway.
a
They work
series
around the 29 of Darrell Lanigan down the back straightaway.
There was.
Oneal.
And everybody was in the same equipment.
Kevin Claycomb as they come out of turn 4.
There was
down the
no
main
money
straightaway.
difference, you know.
So Claycomb goes a lap down in the red 28.
It's amazing, I think, here watching Billy Moyer, man. He's trying everything. He's ran the middle line. He's ran the high line. He's trying to get down and get on the grass like your dad is here. He's all over the place.
As you see Bob Pierce and
to find anything.
In the last 2 cars now on the lead lap here in the Hoosier Dirt Classic. Now Laughlin is closed on Moyer. They're all in the same straightaway. Don Oneal, Billy Moyer, Rick Laughlin. $7,500 on the line of the winner.
Going through his head is I mean, how many races had he won?
Don Oneal's the laps wind down.
He doesn't have anything to lose in that second position.
Moyer.
No, let's just. If I can find anything, I'm going.
He's led 30 laps of it, 35.
Don Oneal down the main straightaway.
So let me ask you. In a situation like this, I mean, obviously everybody wants to be leading. Would you rather be the guy defending or the guy attacking?
Don Oneal looking for the biggest win of his career to date as he hits into turn number 3. Billy Moyer second.
So if I was to start in Dad's situation, the whole race, him running second was the perfect situation because he was able to watch him the whole race and see where he was met, where he was better at, where he was worse at, and then you get in a position where you catch a black car like that, you're able to maneuver and you know where those weaknesses are going to show at. He was just able to take advantage of it. So in a position where Dad ran that whole race, he was in a perfect position. He stayed with him. He might have known he was a little bit better than him. Or maybe he wasn't that much better than him. And just let Moyer have to make the decision and why
the richest win of his
without
career.
that lap car, he might have not won the race.
You know, and that's a great point because your dad got to watch Moyer and what line he wanted to run for 30, 40 laps. Right. Moyer then only had a handful handful of laps to try and figure out what your dad was doing and how he was better than him at that moment.
It's way easier to run second.
What a
just
racer
like
tonight.
you hear
There's
anybody
Todd
talk
O'Neal
about.
officially wins the Hoosier Classic.
Is it?
And now he will take the
sure
victory
is.
lap in honor of not only a fellow racer, but his friend Lee Fleetwood, who passed away here last month unexpectedly. And Don Oneal has done it here tonight, the biggest win of his career to date in the 71 car MasterSbilt chassis, as we'll see him come around here on the front straightaway to victory lane at Brownstown Speedway.
Hell, Tader, there's another win you didn't even know you had. He did wrinkle up that right rear quarter.
Just a little bit. It looks like from the back, though. It doesn't look like.
No, it looks like somebody got into him.
Yeah.
I wonder who did the graphics on that car.
I wonder what's up with the white nose piece.
I don't know, but I just want you to be ready here, Huddy, because you've already said if I buy it, you wear it. So
All right.
this driver's suit right here is one of a kind. After the red and yellow, the whole thing I watched here, this was not what I thought your dad was going to climb out in.
Look at it.
I mean, that's sharp, man. This is my favorite part. Gotta go around and get a beverage. He got it.
Oh my gosh. I'd say that wasn't the only one drank that night.
Oh, I'm positive. I mean, you would look good in that driving suit right there.
You buy it, I'll wear it.
So, Huddy, let me ask you this, man, before we click off here. But what's it like to look back and kind of see, your dad in those races and those kind of things?
Well, it's cool for me to see, and to see how different the cars are. And, it's just like watching old videos of me race or something. It just brings back a lot of memories, and just to kind of see him and his, whenever he was younger and how he progressed. And that's the reason why I've really enjoyed a bunch of your videos, because I've watched, you guys started doing these videos with James and stuff, and it's just a lot of those races at Brownstown where he originated and started, and it showed a lot of, his progression, and it's really cool to see. But I'll tell you what, if he was to come here and sit down, he could probably tell you every lap that it happened. He might have not remembered on the phone when we just called him, but he would remember every lap if he was to sit here and watch it. So, it's just cool to be able to watch those races, for anybody.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because, again, I just want to say a huge thank you to James Essex because, as we've all kind of been sitting here in quarantine and not being able to go to a racetrack, he reached out to us and said, man, I got all these old VHS races. Does anybody have a VCR? And thank goodness my wife had one, and she was getting ready to sell in the yard sale. So I pulled it out of the yard sale, and we've been doing this with him. And it's cool because, like I said, I wasn't around for some of these races to get to see and to see what your dad's career became, to watch your career now. It's pretty cool to go back and get to watch these. And then here we've unearthed another win for Tader and MasterSbilt, and he didn't even know.
That's right. And it was cool to bring Tader. I thought that he would enjoy it as much as I would. He's probably there.
Guarantee you.
Yeah, guarantee it.
Did not miss a race at Brownstown. That place used to have some of the most premier races, which it still does. But Hud, they would have 4 a year, like your Jack Boggses, your Scotts, your Billy Moyers. They live to go to Brownstown to run them 4 races. You know what I mean? Just like Florence over there. You got about 3 or 4 over there.
Yeah.
You always get that good group of racers that race them tracks. You know what I mean? Brownstown struggled there for a few years, but it's getting back to where it used to be.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said earlier. I think that there's a lot more attention growing to Brownstown now. I think the races are coming back. I mean, the Jackson 100's been in the top 5 races like 2 or 3 years in a row now. It's getting back there. It's you know what I mean. So I think it's going to get back to where it once was. But like you said, I don't remember any of that. Well, I wasn't even thought of when all that was going on. But, I remember growing up going to Brownstown as a kid and how many race cars you'd have. My gosh, I mean, you go there and you couldn't camp. If you didn't get there early, you didn't have a camping spot. There was people parked all the way for a regular Saturday night race. They were filled in the back to the max, not another hauler in there. And it wasn't anything for them to park them outside of the gate.
Well, and I think what you both just said, when people, and I think that younger people don't understand when the whole saying of if you can win at Brownstown, you can win it anywhere, people say, oh, yeah, whatever. When you go back and you listen to the names that were racing at Brownstown, regularly, if you can win at Brownstown, you can win anywhere because these guys were the best of the best.
Well, you used to do the deal at Brownstown and Florence, Kentucky, and you go down to Richmond, Kentucky, that area. You look at the drivers. You used to go to Florence on a local Saturday night. Rodney Combs, Chuck McWilliams, the Petros, Gene, Russ, Pat Patrick, Ralph Latham, just on and on. Man, you go over there, and it was like racing the World 100 on a Saturday night for 800 to 1,000 to win.
And you speak of those people today, and a lot of people don't know who any of them guys are. But they were the premier. If they rolled in, especially in their area.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in their area. You get them around Ponderosa, Burnside, Bluegrass, a bunch of them places. They were hard to deal with.
Billy Teagarden. Man, they're just on and on. And, man, them guys was just, what was it Jim calls them? Gladiators. You know what I mean? Them guys, they didn't have no full containment seats, no full face helmets. Just, you know what I mean? Them guys would just grit their teeth and dig.
Yes. And it's cool to watch those races and see those guys because there's a lot like, just a lot of them guys that Tater just mentioned.
Yeah.
They don't get mentioned anymore,
Yeah.
and they were amazing racers, racers.
Yeah, and another one I missed, Larry Moore.
Larry Moore at
Florence, pretty much a regular.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's got a book out that's a pretty good read. Mm-hmm. He's got a really good book.
And and you talk about that, it's just like we talked about CJ Rayburn on there. I mean, CJ just turned 80 on Sunday. CJ's 55 right there in 1995, running it, and obviously ran for several more years after that. It's just amazing seeing those guys like we talked. Your dad's 30 at that point. I mean, that's just it's amazing to see what the progression was going to be for these guys, where they're going to end up. And then I think for us, it's amazing to now we're watching you and Bobby Pierce battle it out. We're starting to see that second and third generation of drivers start to show up and have those same kind of battles that we're seeing here.
Oh, yes, most definitely. And, it's just cool, to be able to come back and watch this stuff. It kind of gives you goosebumps a little bit. And it shows you what racing was. Whenever everybody talks about, how these you'd have ungodly car counts and all that. So we have a VHS tape at the house, and I used to watch it. Now we don't have it. I'm sure we got it somewhere. It's probably in the attic. But it was the 2001 Dixie Shootout. The last year it paid $50,000, and Dad won it.
Mm-hmm.
And you watch that race, and it's like the most amazing thing you've ever watched in your life. I mean, there's 250 cars at Dixie Speedway. At Dixie. You go there today for a Lucas Oil race that pays $15,000, you got 35. 250 cars for $50,000. And even you go to the World 100, we have 80. And we're like, oh my gosh, we got a ton of race cars here. Can you imagine 250?
I remember back when they used to have 2 1/4 to 250 at Eldora. They qualified all night. And then they'd run that there, the non-qualifiers races. It'd be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
And what's crazy is, I don't know if you know how. So, and I'm sure you do, but so Eldora, they used to just qualify. They didn't run the prelim nights. Well, it was still the same way for 250 cars, but they didn't rework the racetrack. So, and you had to qualify within the top 120 to even compete
in the heat races. So you'd go there, and you might draw 230 out of 250 cars,
And you're coming out
And
on
you're
one worn-out racetrack.
a second off from a second off, because they would start in the mud and end in the most black stuff you'd ever seen in your life. And they said there was people that would go there, and if they draw bad, they just load up and go home because it wasn't even worth spending the time.
Man, that's awesome. I made the top 120 to run a heat race.
Yes. And Dad said, he said, you didn't even worry about going and winning. He said, because there was a process you went through.
Yeah.
He said you'd have Billy Moore and Scott Bloomquist sweating if they drew a bad number, because they didn't even think they were going to be able to make it to compete in the heat race.
And I think that's an amazing thing, too, when you look back at those careers, and you made a great point there, is, just making the show back then was the first thing you did. You didn't go to the weekend saying, I'll make the show, and I'm probably the favorite. Just making the show was the first thing to check off your box. You got to get in the feature before you can worry about anything else.
I can, even when we started racing with Hud's dad in 08, we went to Eldora and whatever, them guys would ask me about winning the race. I'd say, man, I just want to be able to make the race. And, as far as winning the race was never really on our mind. We just wanted to get into the race, and we felt like we accomplished something just doing that. Now, Hud's dad, he wanted to win the race, and I understand that. But as for me, personal satisfaction, just being in the show did it for me.
Yeah, and you think of like the Chili Bowl now, how they say, oh, it's so hard to make the Chili Bowl. Can you think about doing that 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year? Because you got the Dream, you got the World, you got places like the Dixie Shootout. For the Jackson 100, they used to have 170 cars, 180 cars. And can you imagine doing that many times a year? Because it was nothing. On a weekly show at Brownstown, Dad said whenever the year he won the track championship 2 or 3 years, and 2 or 3 years in a row. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if I'm right, but said they would average 60, 70, 80 cars a night. 60 cars was low.
4 heat races and 2 consies usually most of the time.
Yeah.
Just to get into the feature of Brownstown on a local event, you had to be pretty good.
Well, it's funny you say that, because, and I forget which even race it was that we did with James, and he goes, this is a really good race. It's just a local, it's just a normal Saturday night at Brownstown. And we listened to the starting lineups and the names that rolled out for just a normal Saturday. I'm like, I have goosebumps just listening to who's getting ready to race in this thing, and this is just a normal Saturday night, no big deal.
Yeah, and they paid good too. And today, it paid better in 2000 than it does today.
Paid better for what it cost to do it.
Yes.
As far as the percentages, the payoff was probably better than that. Here, not too long ago, Geraldine was digging through some of our old paperwork, and she found a lot of payoffs from back in the day. And her and Michael Rigsby, they did a little bit of deal on dirt. It's been quite a few years ago, but they was comparing the payoffs today compared to what they was back then, and there was not that much difference.
No, and that's what, even right here, south of us, I know that a lot of those guys talk about, Scottsburg, when it was really humming, that you go down there and run for $10,000 on, a lot of times throughout the year. So,
and Columbus had a racetrack too.
Yes.
Yes, it did. Up there where Fair Oaks Mall is at.
So, it wasn't unheard of to run for those numbers. And again, when you compare that to what the cost of input to go do it, it was a heck of a lot better payday.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was, and we talk about race cars and the car counts, but the fans too. The fans were, it was nothing to go and see a packed grandstands, like you see it like a Jackson on a normal Saturday night, because it didn't cost anything to get in. Food was cheap. Everything was cheap. People could afford to do it. Yeah. And today I think that's half the battle we fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's not knocking promoters. I think that's the tough thing they've got to try and raise that purse. They've got to find the money somewhere. So a lot of times it comes back on the people coming in the front gate to get in. But if you don't have the fans in the gate, you can't pay the purse. So it's a double-edged sword no matter which way you try and do it.
Yeah, and I think that's why we see back in 1995 they're paying $7,500 to win at a Brownstown event, and then they probably had 4 or 5 of those a year, and really today they have three that pay over that.
Yeah.
And But I think, and there's no hiding it. I don't think the racing is as quality as it used to be, because you go to a local event and you usually have those couple 3, 4, 5, 6 guys depending on the racetrack you go to. They got the really really good race cars, and you got the other people that are there that they're just there to have fun and race, and really kind of know they don't really have a chance to win, but they just want to run inside the top 5 against these people that are actually putting all this money into it. So and there's no hiding that either. So that's the story at a lot of places. So
well, it's like you said, Tater, back then everybody had the same stuff. There wasn't really money tied into it. I mean, you could, if you were willing to work and you had some talent in the driver's seat, you could run with anybody.
Well, the difference is today, back in them times, the guys would call the shop or one of the other car builders, and they'd get a frame and they'd take it home and they would finish it themselves. This time, the guys want to call down and get their cars done. I don't think our younger generation is as talented as far as working on stuff, and I think it goes back to our high schools too, where there's less VOAG than there used to be. Back when I went to high school, there was farm power, auto mechanics, welding 1, welding 2. I don't even know what our high school up there has a VOAG to do that anymore. But back in the day, man, you mean the younger generation could work on anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just changed. It's not like it used to be, which, I don't know whether it's better or worse, but the guys could work on more stuff than they used to.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've talked about that before on here. A lot of times I think it now becomes, what can I buy and what can I bolt on? Come out of the package, I bolted on, it's going to make me faster. Back then, there was a lot of shop engineering going on.
Yeah.
It's all right, here's the issue we got.
You could build whatever you wanted at your shop.
You didn't have to find it online and order it and get a part.
It didn't have to be exactly this degree by this degree, or it was going to be, blow the rear end out from underneath of it. It wasn't going to be anything like that. It's and like Tater said, a lot of it comes down to just the work ethic of a lot of people today. So that's it. And but another thing is, you didn't have to have on a national level. You take my dad, for example, in that deal, he was racing for my grandpa. And, my grandpa probably always gave them the best stuff, but don't get me wrong, it was pennies and dimes, you know what I mean? They might have had the stuff they needed to race, but they were penny and diming, and there was no extra money spent anywhere.
And there wasn't a warehouse of parts back there to go just pick and choose.
Right, yes. And you just didn't have to have all of it. So, but you didn't have to have $100,000 to go and compete. You didn't have to have $100,000 to come and compete on a national level. Then, like Tater said, you had to have a good work ethic, and you just had to build a lot of stuff yourself, from your grinders, and you had to chop, cut, and weld, and put together what you could put together, and slowly work on it to get it better. So, it's not anything like that today. Today, if you try and do that, there's no point in you hardly even showing up, because it's just not, unless you have the right tools and the right machines to do it,
Well, and it goes back to and the advancement with technology and the engineers that have been involved. But just like there, when you talked about, if they had the data we have today, we're only off the throttle 15%. You could ask your dad right after that race and say, how much were you off the throttle? He'd probably say, I don't feel like I was off of it hardly at all, because and because it was all feel. It was all, how was I feeling as I was going through the car? That data, the engineers that have come in, and I'm not knocking any of them, has made it such a science to be fast. You can't gamble and just say, hey, I'm going to try this. We're going to cut this off on the grinder back here and take her to the track, and we'll see what happens.
And I'll tell you something else that I think is a big thing with a lot of people. You get, like, Freddie Smith ran. Freddie is one of those last people of that area. Besides like Billy Moyer and Scott, you still got some, them guys, and Dad was a part of that area. He was just beginning whenever they were, in their prime. So, but they kind of, like, whenever they get to the end of their careers, like Billy Moyer right now, he's coming up on the end of his career, and he's not everything he once was, but you ask yourself, is it that, or look how they raced in their prime, and look how they race now. You know, if Freddie Smith was, 40 again, 35, 40 in his prime again, would he be able to jump in that race car and do what he did then because of the driving style being so different? And that's the reason why, love him or hate him, Scott is one of the best drivers in the country. His driving style has had to change so much with the times, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. They might say, well, Billy's losing it. He's not as good as he once was. Billy's probably everything he once was and more because he knows more.
Yeah.
But, what do you do? Everything's changed so much,
Well, I can vouch for this. The older you get, the harder it is to do that. Now, I don't drive, but I know how I feel to get in one of them race cars and to do some of the things that I've seen Hudson do, or Bobby Pierce, or Devin, or some of them. Man, I don't think I could do it at my age. These guys, them younger guys, they're not scared. They've not been hurt. They can get up on that wheel, and as far as their capacity, they can just wheel them cars. I think Billy, if you back him up 20 years, I think he could do it. You know what I mean? Scott's older, and he still does a pretty good job of it. The difference between Scott is he just refuses to quit.
Yeah.
When that guy gets 75-year-old, he's still going to think he can do it.
Yeah.
Oh, he'll still roll into Eldora thinking he's the favorite.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it won't matter.
Yeah.
And he still will be.
And he will.
5 years old.
You're right.
He still will be.
And if for some reason he's not, he'll find a way to make himself
Yeah.
the favorite.
Yeah.
He'll slip and fall and go to the hospital.
And I can tell you something else, too, talking about Don, Hud's dad. Don has not put the effort into racing that Scott has as far as technology and learning, but as far as putting a guy in a race car that don't work on one and study one, that guy can get it done now. He's probably got as much talent, probably more talent than anybody out there, without all the time put into making that car run good. When he drove for us, he didn't come to the shop and work at all. You go to the racetrack, he gets in it, and as far as practicing and testing, you might get 45 minutes out of him, and he's ready to drink beer. That's all you're going to get. You better get what you get in 45 minutes, because that's it. But you could take him to the racetrack, though, and when we started racing in 08, we hadn't practiced. We practiced at Granite City. Well, we went and ran a Lucas race down south and was terrible. Built a new car, went to Granite City, and the guy went in there hot lapped and was one of the best cars there. And then we ended up running second that night and winning Florence the next night. Don didn't work on that car. Tader, I'm loose. I'm tight. You fix it. You fix it. What if Don had put the effort into that car as far as Scott or some of them has? I'm telling you, he would probably be the best.
Well, and I know that you have said before, too, when talking about Don, there was nobody better that could race a badly set up race car.
Oh, yeah.
Not knocking you and your setups, but when you missed on the setup, he could still go get more out of that car than maybe anybody else could.
He would say, Tader, just get me close. We'll be all right.
That was every night. Was every night.
Just get me close. But I seen that guy do things in our cars, and I seen a little bit of that in Hud when we was at Golden Isle. We had a bad car at Golden Isle, and Hud had drove up to 8th or 9th or 10th. And then he jumped over the cushion there late in the race, but he was going to get a good finish for a bad race car. I've seen Don take a car and run really good, and when he come into the pits, I'd tell him, said, man, you drove a heck of a race, because I could tell, but he would get you a good finish. I think that's the difference between a race car driver, a good race car driver, and a race car driver, when they can give you that effort.
Well, and the last thing I'll bring up here, you talk about Scott. I think it's been interesting, and people have been hammering on him, but he even jumped on this iRacing deal. I mean, and here's a guy who probably everything about iRacing he's anti. I mean, because he's everything about feeling and setting up a car and doing all that. Now he's sitting in a simulator in his shop, and it's got to be eating him alive because he doesn't look good when he first goes out. But he's grinding and putting in hours because he still can't even handle not being the best on an iRacing sim.
Yeah. Hey, we was racing them Malibu Grand Prix cars one time in Atlanta, back when they used to have the shootout. If we could go run them things. Scott had these guys when he pulled through there to after his lap to work on that car so that guy could run the fastest lap. Now, who would do that? You know what I mean? Who would do that? fuel in, fuel out, do this, do that. You know what I mean? And somehow he manipulated him, get him to do that, so he could run the fastest lap.
That's
what
insane.
about that stuff? That's amazing. We've been lucky. As far as the shop, we're just a little bit off base to be involved with Don and Scott and Billy and Bob Pierce and just on and on and on. Larry Phillips, et cetera, et cetera. And then,
Hudson.
Yeah. Well, I was getting ready to say Jack Boggs.
Yeah,
but then to be involved with like Hudson, you know what I mean? And I'm telling you, Don loves his son, but I'm telling you, Don likes Don and to get that credibility too. Because Gerald will say sometimes that Don's jealous, isn't he, Tater? I said, yeah, Hud's getting the attention, but like I say, man, it's amazing just to be involved with a lot of them guys.
Well, and it is. And, when you look back, and that's what's so cool, that's why I asked you the question there is, how many cars in that field were MasterSbilt? A third of that field. And again, that's a field that was stacked. And, we've talked to you guys before, and I'm excited to see once we can get back racing, and thank goodness you guys are going to get to go do some this weekend. I'm excited to see what you guys can do because we all know the talent Huddy's got, and we know the time and effort you've put in. I've been down there at the shop drinking beer, watching you work, because I'm real good at that part of the game.
Well, what's hurt us is that virus. When that virus come to pass, we come home from Florida. We got to practice February 23rd at Brownstown, which is unheard of in February up here. And we started making some gains, and then we was at the shop working. Well, one day we get this bomb dropped on us, this virus. Well, it slows it. It throws Hud for a spin. He's a young man. He had never seen this before. We have seen 9/11 and a few other things, but the Gulf War, but nothing like this.
I had to go out and get a real job.
Yeah, but I think it's going to make us better in the long run. It makes us more conservative, not as wasteful. Maybe work a little bit harder, appreciate a little bit more.
Well, guys, I appreciate you coming down and doing this with us. This was something different than what we normally do, but it was a heck of a lot of fun, and good luck to you guys as you guys get out and we start opening some things back up. And as always, we're huge MasterSbilt race car fans here at Thirsty Goat, and definitely Hudson Oneal fans as well.
Well, we appreciate you having us. It was a good time.
Maybe we can get us some big wins this year, and you can get us back to the end of the year, and we can really have a good time. Maybe we can even bring Don back with us.
Hell yeah, we'll just have one hell of a party.
Yeah, well, maybe we can have some more races that Don wins, and he can commentate them for us.
You talking about the 71 HD, 71 Hudson Dads?
Hudson Dads, yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.